we're bankrupting our government. We're bankrupting our country. We're bankrupting our economy. I don't hear enough talk about it with anybody. With the spending habits that we have got, and the glide path of our entitlement programs, including health care costs, a big chunk of that, everybody's got some idea, but nobody's really doing anything about it. The president tried to do something, take a first step on Social Security, dead on arrival in Congress. Then they pulled back, and that was the end of that. We can't do that as American people. We as a generation cannot sit here and do things that are going to hamstring this next generation with absolutely unbearable tax burdens when they're out there trying to get married and buy that first home and have that first child. Get into a situation where you got one generation against another with an growing elderly population that the working fewer young people can't sustain. We can do some things now that don't really hurt anybody. If we don't do something over the next few years, we're going to get into a situation where we're going to have to do some things that hurt everybody and hurt our economy. And the economy lies under everything else, even national security. We've got to remember what we're about, what we believe in. This spending thing, I think that it's absolutely correct. People talk about the last election. They say the war, the war, the war. I think it had more to do with corruption and spending than it did the war. Sad to say, some of our folks went to Washington and drained the swamp and made a partnership with the alligators instead. And we got our attention. And as well they should. But the main thing we got to do, I think, we're going to have all kinds of issues. You're going to have issues. As you read history, you realize the things that people going into the administration think that they're going to be having to deal with. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. But for sure, there are things that pop up that you don't foresee that you're going to have to deal with. And the question is, what are your underlying principles? What do you believe in? Anybody can talk from a mental checklist of talking points. What do you really believe in? Where are you coming from? I say get back to first principles. I say that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States are not outmoded documents. Based upon the wisdom of the ages, the accumulated wisdom of the ages, based upon the fact that there is such a thing as human nature, that oftentimes we err, but we can aspire to wonderful things, those kinds of things. The fact that we get certain basic rights from God, not from government. The fact that we have a system of checks and balances and separation of powers. We all learned that litany in school. But what does it really mean? System of federalism. Where the federal government's authority and power delineated in the Constitution. The rest of it's left up to the states and to the people. How does that play out in real life? Well, what they were trying to do there is every way and every instance is to ensure liberty for the American people, the individual person, and that brings with it responsibility. People being counted on to do the right thing. And we need to remember our underlying institutions that made it all work. Institutions and beliefs, basic beliefs, and rule of law, free market system. And the federal courts doing what they're supposed to do, not somebody else's job, not as social arbiters of this nation. Rights of free people to have property, belief in the sanctity of human life. Those are the things that made this a special place. And we are a special place as we stand before the judgment of history. We're the most prosperous nation in the history of the world. We're the most powerful nation in the history of the world, and I don't think we need to apologize for that. should not be said or taken in an arrogant way. We're like everybody else. We make mistakes along the way, and we try to rectify it. We're free people and have free discussions all along the way. Then we come together and do what we feel like is the right thing for our people, right thing for our country. It's going to be the same way again. If we stick to our principles as Republicans, we stick to our first principles that I call it, I think it is not only good for Republicans. We're looking at a bigger picture here. I think we can serve as a magnet to all right-thinking people in this country. I think we can form a new coalition where people will come together as they have before times in this country, and say, let's do some things better and differently, and let's come out the other end stronger and wiser than we ever have been before. I think we've done that many times in the past, and we can do it again. And I look forward to working in that vineyard. I look forward to working with you. Maybe I can come back a little bit later in a different capacity, and we can talk a little bit more about some of these issues. I had another comment or two, but I think that's a perfect place to stop.